Now back to the crash of Egypt Air Flight 804 and how it might affect security here in the United States. I'm joined by Matthew Horace, a former special agent explosive expert with the ATF, and he's now Senior VP and Chief Security Officer at FJC Security Services. Matthew, thank you for joining me this morning, especially with your background. Your company provides security for aviation interests at JFK. So when you heard about this Paris to Cairo flight disappearing and where we are now in the investigation of what happened, what went through your mind then and now?
Well, you know, being in New York, it gives us like a really good insight into the epicenter of how things happen with all the passengers that they receive every day, international passengers in and out of JFK. We're always reminded of how important it is to maintain proper protocols, collaboration with clients and partners to provide the air traveling public a safe ingress and regress into and out of the United States.
Well, you also point out that JFK and the airport, it absorbs most international travelers in the United States. So given that, if I'm a traveler, I would think, does that make it more of a security issue and make it more difficult? Well, and the vulnerability there?
Well, Francis, as we've seen, especially over the last several months, airports provide both hard and soft targets. So in establishing security plans, there are those issues that we deal with outside of the airport, in transit, and the issues we deal with inside the airport, like you saw what happened in Brussels. But certainly with the amount of traffic that's received in and out of JFK and the number of air travelers daily at 2 million people per day, it presents challenges, and it gives us that narrative to start thinking about what to do next to prevent the next hard act.
Well, what to think of and what to do next, especially when we're seeing huge security lines at airports. In O'Hare, we saw that last week, and we also had the warning from the TSA saying it's going to get much worse because of summer travel. So when you have those lines outside, what's the security risk there, especially as you just mentioned, in light of what happened in Brussels, and how can it be addressed?
Well, I think several things have to happen as we move into the future of aviation security. Number one, adequate funding to ensure that they have enough people to work to prevent those long lines, because more lines, more chaos presents a greater risk. Number two, we have to continue to learn and establish best practices after each and every incident, ensure that we understand what happens. And number three, we have to continue to monitor and screen everyone who has access to aviation terminals, aviation resources, and understand where they are and continue to monitor them throughout the life cycle of their employment.
Well, that seems like a massive undertaking. Very quickly, how does that happen, especially with the thousands of workers there within confines of airports?
Well, aviation industry in general has to continue to evolve, and we're going to have to evolve with the capacity and with the increased number of passengers.
All right, Matthew Horace, thank you so much for a better understanding of what needs to be done to keep our airports here safe. Thank you. Even though the NRA is